I think I have a pretty illustrious panel for you. And my goal is to make sure that we actually disseminate some important information as opposed to just complaining. We all know what there is to complain about, and we all worry and fret about what's going on and how we're going to make it all happen. But, you know, we keep making it happen, don't we? We don't give up. Any of us in this business, as long as I've been in this business, we don't give up. We just keep changing and growing, and that's what we're supposed to do. Just like the music. The music doesn't stay in a bell jar, it grows. So today is staying true in a changing landscape or soundscape. What are the challenges of shaping winning projects and presentations in our evolving industry, especially as a singer? What factors need to be considered in pursuing career fulfillment? I say originality, authenticity, conviction, luck, hard work. They all go into being a successful artist, which I think all of you here.
I disagree.
And we do have a comedian on the panel also to keep things light, and we know without a sense of humor, all would be lost for us, now, wouldn't it? Because you've got to be able to laugh sometimes in this business, all right? I'd like to introduce my panel. On our far left is Miss Jana Herzen. I first met Jana at my house, where she was putting a project together with Charnette Moffett. My husband, Paul Wycliffe, has been making records for 35 years in New York. He is a Grammy-nominated recording engineer, and we have an overdub and recording studio in our house. And I cooked dinner, and Jana came downstairs and ate, and I was telling her actually about one of my students, because I've been teaching for 15 years. And she liked my students, so that was really nice. And but the young lady was too young to realize what that meant, that Jana liked her project and wouldn't put it out. Too bad for her is all I can say. As a teacher, we can tell them, but they have to learn. But Jana is a singer, a beautiful singer, and a songwriter. She is the CEO of Motema Music, one of the fastest growing creative music labels on the scene today.
Yeah.
She has 5 Grammy nominations. She has the heart of a hippie from California, as far as I'm concerned. You know what I mean? And I mean that in a positive way, in that from my era of love and peace in the world, it just means all good things, is what it means to me. So we welcome Jana Herzen. And then we have Mr. Allan Harris. Another multi-talented singer and musician. He hails from Harlem. He is a wonderful, beautiful singer, instrumentalist, and composer. Allan has a new release, Black Bar Jukebox, which I haven't heard yet, and congratulations on that. I'm looking forward to singing in your room at APAP. We're all lined up to sing in your Harlem suite. And Allan, I love what he and Pat have created. They're really entrepreneurs. From many years ago at the IAJE sessions, there was Allan and Pat, and always we are listening, our ears to the wall about what's going on. And Allan has run from, he goes from across that river with the black cowboys to Nat Cole. I mean, there's just a number of hats that Allan wears very comfortably.
Including the one he has on
today.
Right.
Yes, and we have another comedian. All right.
I'm in trouble with all these women, I can tell right now.
We are his harem, by the way, Roseanna. Thank you.
I'm getting to you.
I'm not that good, I need a nap.
All right, and then beside Allan, we have Miss Hampton Callaway.
Yes.
One of the most accomplished singer, musicians, comedians in the world today, and all of our artists today, you just have to Google them because their accomplishments are so long. I'd be here for the whole hour and 15 to talk about them. But Anne has the ability to reach mass audiences. That's what I really wanted for everyone to hear Anne speak. You know, we all know how wonderful she sings. But you are known for your mastery of the Great American Songbook. And you just won the award for the Star of Broadway,
The Performer of the Year of
Performer
Broadway.com.
of the Year award. I had it somewhere. Thank you.
Thank you, my subject.
I have her Sarah Vaughan tribute, and that she had out this last year, recorded live at Dizzy's. But Anne walks the line between Broadway, jazz. Her mother is a brilliant voice teacher. Her dad was a brilliant journalist. She's very accomplished, and she's very lovable, and she cares about the community too. That's what I love about all of the artists up here on this panel, is they actually care, and they're a friend to have in this business, which we need. So thank you for being here today.
My pleasure.
Ms. Callaway. Miss Rene Marie.
Woo! Yeah!
Montana artist. What I think of as a firebrand who you don't know what she's going to do next. And she's a singer, composer. She might be playing bongos in the town square, screaming out to the sun. She just nominated for a Grammy on Montana Music. It feels pretty good, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Her tribute to Eartha Kitt, I Want to Be Evil, is just so smoking. If you haven't heard it, you need to go out and get it. And congratulations, Renee, and thank you so much for being here. And then Miss Laurie Antonioli. Laurie. Laurie is a very interesting singer and composer and improviser, and she, in recent years, runs the Vocal Jazz Conservatory, the program in Berkeley, California. And it was formerly known as the Jazz School, and many of us have gone through and either given workshops or presentations at the Jazz School. And so Laurie is really on the cutting edge of not only her career as a singer, where her Songs of Shadow and Light made a lot of noise this year. Her tribute to Joni Mitchell is a beautiful, beautiful record. Absolutely gorgeous. And that's on Origin Records.
Yeah.
But she also is on the cutting edge of what classes and what studies are taking singers even further at this point in time. She's developing and hiring those who are teaching. And I thought that was very valuable information. So we welcome everyone. I'd like to start with a question I want to run by everybody. I want everybody to answer. How do you work the balance? Because this is to each one of you. I want each one of you to answer. How do you work the balance, I'm getting a frog, between the push to be commercial, sellable, and versus being innovative and creative and true to your muse? How do you walk that line in today's changing market? Laurie, I'm going to start with you.
Wow, I don't know if I'm on that line, actually.
You just had a Joni Mitchell tribute.
Yeah, this is the most commercially successful thing that I've had, and I think that had everything to do with the fact that people knew the songs. So, a lot of times when you do original music, you take a lot of risks with that. So you also take a lot of risks when you cover, as you know, an artist, or you pay tribute. Roseanna's done that as well, and there's a lot of comparisons and things like that. So it's kind of risky to do that, but I did, and so. But honestly, to be totally honest, I actually have always just followed my creative mind and heart. And this Joni record was absolutely just a continuum. So there was no, I wasn't trying to have a hit with this record. It was just part of what I've always been doing. And I mean, for me, that's my advice to singers is to, stay the course and be authentic, be who you are. And, that's really what people want to hear. People don't want to hear something that's been contrived to please you. They want to hear you. They want to hear who you are and what you have to say.
Very good.
Amen.
Rene?
Oh, well, you know, I am a fierce believer in knowing yourself and experimenting with things. If you don't know yourself, experimenting so that through the process of elimination, you'll know, well, I'm not sure what is me, but I know that's not me. And that there is, like Laurie said, an element, a huge element. I won't say fearlessness because fear is going to accompany it anyway. Mm-hmm. So you might as well make friends with the fear and say, come on, we got stuff to do. And go ahead and do what you have to do. And I also believe that within every person, not just musicians or artists, that there is an internal tuning fork, so to speak, that we are born with. Mm-hmm. And when we're very small, we vibrate right in harmony with that tuning fork. But the older we get, we worry about what people think about us and what they say and what they're going to write about us. And we get farther and farther away from that inner note that we're each born with. So for me, when I am resonating with that note, I know it. I know it just as well as I know that I am black and female. I know that note. This is the note I resonate with. And then at night, this is how I can tell I'm not resonating with the note. When at night, just before you go to sleep, you know, and you start thinking about things you did and that inner feeling that you get, like, I don't think this is right, but what I'm going to do? So you just get up the next morning and do the same wrong thing again. That's when I know I'm not resonating. And the thing that I found out is when I try to explain it to people who are not artists, they don't get it. And they want to know why. Like, why are you going to do it? And what's going to happen if you... And I had to be comfortable saying, I don't know. I just know this is what I have to do. I don't have to know the reason why I have to do it, and I don't have to know what's going to happen later, and I just know I have to do it. And each time I have done that, I have never, ever regretted it. But I have regretted many times when I didn't do it. So the way I feel about it, I would rather, my last thought before I die, I would rather that thought to be, I'm so glad I did, than I wish I had. Mm-hmm. That's...
Well, I think you both have brought up very important points, and that's one of the reasons I'm so happy to be here, is to hear everybody's take on this very interesting subject. I live in the corner of traditional pop and jazz, which is a complicated, it's a complicated place to be, but it's an exciting place to be. And I also am a very spiritual person, so I feel that a lot of what I do and how I get to my tuning fork is the spiritual energy of being a human being. One of the most influential quotes of my life, I walked into my father's library when I was 10 years old and pulled out an André Gide book. And in the book it said, art is the collaboration between God and the artist, and the less the artist does, the better. It is a profound guiding quote, and it means basically living with the unknown. It means that every moment is an opportunity to have a duet between effort and grace. And everything I do, to me, the art of my life is the same thing as having a good relationship with my love. If I'm true to myself, and I'm true to this world that we live in, a world that's always changing, that's fraught with tremendous challenges and disturbing new realities and bizarre lifestyle changes, such as being glued to your computer. I mean, it's a very interesting world we live in. So the art of not only being true to my artistic and spiritual understanding and my tuning fork, but also, where is the world? Where are the people that I've gotten to know through the years who I sing to? Nightclub, after symphony hall, after theater, wherever I'm performing, this is my family. And I really care about the people I sing to. So to me, when I put a show, when I do a CD, it's like, well, what do I need to say right now? What's important to me right now? And where are my friends? Where's my family? Where are we all together? It's always about we for me. And I feel that I am a bridge between different kinds of music. I try not to judge myself or feel like, oh my God, I'm not jazz enough, I'm too theatrical, I'm not, whatever it is. I try to be true to my hybrid of, I say, what's my favorite color? It's the rainbow. It really is. And so I try to bring every day truth and authenticity and adventure and love. To me, the guiding principle is love. How can I love? How can I share my love? How can I share my soul? And that's why I do what I do. And it's always what I come from. And so I think when you lead with love, incredible things can happen. And that's why I've had such a wonderful life so far.
Nice.
Mr. Harris?
Wow.
I'll take another.
You really want me to do this, huh?
I mean, you're representing all the males out there.
Oh, no. Don't do that to me. I won't. I've had such a varied and wonderful life, and I'm still going on strong. I've realized a long time ago as a young boy of color that life isn't fair. And that's what you deal with. And it's a wonderful thing to understand that at an early age, because then you start believing that you must start loving and understanding yourself. And then in turn, that teaches other people how to treat you. And I had some wonderful mentors from my mother to my grandfather to musicians and horsemen, people around me, who told me that through life, you have only one thing, and that's yourself, because everyone else is taken. And I've really carried that through my development as an artist, that when I step on stage, there is really nothing that I need to sell, because how I am on stage and off stage is the same. I live that creed every day. And I ponder the thought especially with younger musicians who are artists, who come to me and they want to discover themselves on stage. And I say, really? Because to me, there's no difference with the stage and whatever. I'm a fool on and off.
That's it. It is.
And you know me for years. I'm the same now as you see me live in performances. And I carry that with me every night. I had my niece with me for 10 days, and it was the longest 10 days. If you ever, I don't have any children, but teenage girls, I don't know how you raise them. Wow, I don't know how you do it.
They raise you.
And you can't hit them, which is really incredible. And I took her with me on 9 of the tours, 9 of the dates, and by the first date, she's like, wow, Allan, this is really do the same songs every night, you're doing this. By the third night, she understood it, because she understood that every night when I perform between 500 or 1,500 people, I have people that smile at me. That's the last thing I see before I go to bed, is people smiling at me. It's the greatest gift that I ever gave to myself, was the smile of the audience in my mind. So for me to pontificate and say what it is I want to do, how I want to grow, I really don't understand that, because I've been a constant since I've been a child. Because being a man of color, there's been hard lessons that I've had to learn. And the one lesson I have learned is a lot of the world is not going to like you. Live with that and move on. You're not here to convince them to like you, because at the end of the day, they're not going to jump in the grave with you. So you must understand that there's things that you need to do. And fortunately for me, I discovered this thing called performing that has left me a very selfish person in that respect. I'm glad that there's an audience that carries that with me. So on that note, I just like to perform and see people smile, and that's all I do. And I'm not here to really discover or become commercial, because I can't give up or take away from what I am naturally. That is just me.
So you never think about walking the line from being sellable versus your muse. It's all in one and the same for you.
It has to be, because that's all you have is yourself at the end of the day. I mean, what is there left except you? And if you can't carry that with you into your voice and your performance and your playing, then you're just putting up a front, basically, and your audience sees through that eventually. So in turn, you're recreating yourself through every project, trying to find out what the audience wants, when you have to realize that all they want is for you to be yourself.
That's it.
And once you start the journey immediately, then life becomes wonderful.
All right, thank you. Thank you. All right, Jana, how do you walk that line as an artist? I saw you perform at Joe's Pub.
I dance on the tightrope all the time. That's how I walk it. First off, I just want to thank you for putting this wonderful panel together.
I'm just honored because I love all of you and respect you so much, and I just really appreciate everybody being here. We're all in the same boat, sailing down the river or up the river or wherever we go. And
down the river, I think.
So I really appreciate everybody being here, and you know, I really want to pass on, you know, some valuable information for everybody. Like I said, so it's not just a bitch fest, or if that's proper to say that.
Can I say it?
That's a really good name for a
Can I say it?
That's it. New Jazz and a bitch fest. No, but you know, I was delighted when you finally released your project, because here you are, you know, you're wearing all these different hats. You're getting the label going. You've always been known for having a wide variety of creative artists in world music. But in your own music and your writing, you're very supportive of singer-songwriters. And that's what you work on a lot yourself.
Yeah,
right?
well, I just want, in answer to your question of the commercial versus art, I mean, first off, I'm 100% in agreement with everything that got said here, and I don't know anything other either besides just being myself, you know. And what is interesting, as I run a record label, and that happened, I started my label by putting out my own first record, trying to get it signed. Couldn't get it, I got a couple nibbles, couldn't get it signed. I really believed in it. I said, okay, well, I'm put it out. I put the name Motema on it. Motema means heart. I mean, the language of Lingala. It's all the way back from Africa, because I felt like I like essentials, really things that are to the core, and thought that reflected that. And so, you know, from putting that out, I then, you know, struggled to try and get it promoted. And I am a great believer in do-it-yourself, actually. And a lot of people come to me to talk about putting out a record with the label, and I tell them they're actually better off, particularly in this environment, to put it out yourself, because you can print it, you've already made the record, you know. You can print it for not that much and take home the entire percentage of what you're going to be selling them for, because unfortunately the reality of today is that if you don't have a certain type of projects, it's very hard to you know, get broad publicity. So then and yet you really can get out and work and make a living. Maybe not make a killing, but you can make a living doing what you do and bringing yourself to the world in various ways. And depending upon what it is that you do, it depends upon how you should be bringing it out. But I mean, I just want to bring a case in point with Rene. I mean, Rene, first off, I fell in love with Rene's musicianship in 2005, and I couldn't believe my luck when I had the opportunity to actually put her out on a label. And but you know, we were working, and it's hard to grab that attention. When she came in with the Earth Kit project, I was like, that's the stuff. I know I can take that, and we can get things up to that next level again. And it's not that the other stuff isn't outrageously amazingly wonderful. It is. It's just that we had kind of a handle that I thought that Rene was just the right person to do that thing. So you sort of have these, the business side of it is actually a creative art firm as well. I have to follow my heart and my instinct about what, and it is really instinctual. It's just like, well, this feels like it's going to work, this is going to run, you know, and not that everything I put out is commercial by far, it's really not, but the, you know, the process even of the creativity of choosing how you're going to promote, and it's part of the fun of the game, and I think it's very important to look at yourself. It's kind of like, well, a chicken lays an egg. I think of musicians kind of like chickens. Well, we made this egg, you know. We made this egg. And a rooster. Well, the rooster. But at some level, by the time we made a CD, when the CD is a CD, now it's a product, okay? And we don't have to be embarrassed, what's very important is to go, I created my best product here, and of course we love it and we're connected to it, but at the same point, it's something that's getting out there in the market. Us as singers, though, we're spiritual messengers. I agree with you. That's what the job is. So when we're out doing what we do, then we better be right on the money there. But that process, and I've worked with it a lot, and it's very hard to kind of separate yourself and kind of look at it objectively and put it out. But that's kind of, I think, part of the game. It's part of the game. But in creating what you're going to create, I mean, like you have, Roseanna had a Grammy-nominated record on our label, also a tribute project, right? Beautiful project. And she and the project she has right now is outrageously wonderful too. This the Claire Fisher project, which she's showcasing. And she brought it to me, and it's very difficult because I was not able to put it out for a few different reasons, and it's but here we are working because we have to work all together. And sometimes things I can work on, some I can't, but I couldn't be more in support of her artistry because she's always in there in the trenches doing it. And all of y'all, there's that, when you give yourself to this music, it's a tremendous act of giving. That's what it is to create. Yes. So I don't know if that answers.
And ad motema, so you do consider what would be sellable for you, what writers would write about, what versus, or do you see it all the same too? Is that what you're saying, that you're just putting out creative music and then some?
No, what I'm saying is that the process of marketing is a creative process.
In itself.
In and of itself. That's creative also, that there's an art of the selling. There's an art of the selling. And that certain, and different people are going to, like different record labels are interested in different things.
Yes.
That's because they each have, everybody who's running it has their own aesthetic, what they're kind of interested in promoting. I mean, I'm very interested in promoting original projects which are written by the person, because I'm interested in expanding the art form. And I'm interested in, people who are fiercely dedicated to their own personal vision, fiercely dedicated and clear about who they are.
Great, thank you, All right, I'd like to address a question to you, Rene. I've always found your journey fascinating. I've followed various things that you've done that were very controversial, and admired your courage in saying what you mean and going for it, even if you got in deep doo-wah. Okay? You know what I mean? You're going for it, and I love that, all right? So, tell us what drives your courage and creativity, and where do you see the future of jazz singing going?
Okay. What drives my courage and creativity? In a word, desperation.
Desperation.
Because I am desperate to express my inner truth. I'm just compelled to do it.
Can I offer another word?
What is it?
Passion.
Okay, desperate passion.
Desperate sounds like, oh my God.
It's
it's
passion. And I'm glad you said that, because my approach to music is the same as my approach to those amorous.
So you must be good in bed.
We're not going there, Ann.
Why not?
Maybe later. So the thing about it, I think, I was raised under Jim Crow laws the first 10 years of my life. For those of you who are young and don't know what Jim Crow laws are, that is the apartheid that existed in parts of the United States where blacks and whites could not share the same this, that, or the other. So my parents were very subtly but actively involved in protesting that. Even though they were both taught at the school and their jobs were at risk. And I think that's where I got my determination, like, you know what? I cannot sit silently and sing about all these happy love songs, which is what I was doing when I first started singing. Singing about being in love and other people's songs. I got something else to say, and I know I can't be the only one thinking it or feeling this way, so I'm going to write my own song about it since I can't find none in the Great American Songbook. And I'm just being honest, because I've often wondered, like, how come these songs is the Great American Songbook? I don't see nothing in here that represents my great American life. So, anyway. So, that's what drives me. And then various things happened in my life where at the time it was happening, I was thinking this is an obstacle. But it was not an obstacle. What it was someone handing me a gift that wasn't gift wrapped the way I expected a gift to be wrapped. And when I would take away all the part that was bothering me and looked inside, I was like, oh, what a beautiful gift. This is awesome. So when presented with those what appeared like an obstacle or a challenge, and again, the fear, come on fear, let's go, we got shit to do. Let's go ahead and do this. Each time, another door opened, and then another door, and then another door. So I just be looking for the open doors, you know? When I see the open door, even though it's not in my 5-year plan or considered a project, I'm not worried about that because I just have to continue resonating with the truth. Does that answer?
Yeah.
You're the truth's errand girl.
Yeah. Can you also tell me where you think the future of jazz singing is heading? I mean, do you have, from everything that you see going on, our repertoire has been changing? It's just a lot of changes going on. Do you have an opinion about that?
I don't have an opinion,
Okay.
and whenever, not about that question, because whenever interviewers ask me, where do you see the future of jazz? My answer is, I don't know. It's kind of like that. I'm not irritated, but I came into it late, and I didn't even have a concept of that there was even a question like that existing. So when I'm asked it, I just go, well, it's going to go the same way it's always been. It's music, it's art.
Okay.
Well, it's going to keep going.
All right. And that is your answer. That's good. Absolutely. Well, I'm not looking, there isn't one single answer. There's many questions we have in our struggle to get out there, our joy of performing, our deciding what our next project's going to be.
Right.
All the things we think about. There's much to talk about, but that's great. Thank you.
Thank you, Roseanna.
Ann Hampton. Since you're so well known for singing the Great American Songbook, you, like you said, you perform in so many different situations, in orchestras, jazz venues. What I love about you is that your ability to reach mass audiences. You are not worried about necessarily somebody considering you a jazz singer or a pop singer. You sing great and you just go out there, like you said, with a lot of love. But because you're someone that's well known for the American Songbook, how do you continue to bring new life to the American Songbook? You're singing some of those same songs that Ella Fitzgerald and Sarah Vaughan sang, and Billy Eckstine, and you must be thinking, how am I going to bring new life into this? And then and how do you deal with purists? We have all these different camps in jazz, right? All the purists where if you sing, a James Taylor song or a Joni Mitchell song, all of a sudden you've committed some kind of jazz sin, that you're a traitor now, and that's not really jazz. Like we don't know what jazz is.
Right.
So how do you make the standards new, and do you think anything about the purist? And when you present a more pop song from the 60s or 70s, do you say anything about it in your show, or are you just straight ahead?
Well, first of all, one thing that hasn't been said about me is that I am a songwriter, and I write a lot of songs, and I will tell you that because I'm so associated with the Great American Songbook, I have hundreds of songs that no one's ever heard. And it's right now really on my mind. It's like I have spent so much time celebrating the legacy of our great country's music, of jazz and theater and the Great American Songbook. And I think, like, you know, I'm 56 years old. I just had cancer 2 years ago. It might be really good for people to know what's on my mind. So I did a show. Thank you. I did a show last year called Turning Points at 54 Below, and I decided to just come out with my life. I talked about being married to a woman. I talked about my breast cancer. I talked about my parents' divorce. And I found songs. It's a really interesting challenge to try to find the songs that would be exciting and musical and a lovely array. When I do an act, I think that, you know how we have chakras, we have I don't know how many of you know about chakras, but the 7 energy centers. And I think a great show, a great work of art, should have an aspect of all those centers. So when I create a show, an album, a concert, I try to reflect the little girl, the goddess, the lover, the muse, the warrior, all these different sides of the archetypal parts of who we are, which is so exciting. And I want to be just as excited as the audience when I'm sharing these stories. So anyway, I'm trying as I get older to be more personal, and the more I can reveal about myself and be honest and be comfortable in my bones, I think it gives other people the courage to say, hey, she's up there doing her thing and people seem to enjoy it. Maybe I can do that too. But when I start with a song, like My Funny Valentine is a perfect example. It's been sung a million times, but I found out something that changed my entire feeling about it when Lorenz Hart wrote the words for this Richard Rodgers melody that was to be in a show called Babes in Arms. He was a closeted homosexual who was 5'2", alcoholic, lonely, never found the love he was looking for. He put a mirror in front of himself and he said, what do I want my future love to say to me? What a beautiful, beautiful story. What a great inspiration for writing songs. So when I sing that song, it is the most naked, vulnerable, like, am I lovable? Would you please love me? The feelings that I had so much growing up, and to this day I still have, even though I'm married and found the love of my life. So those kinds of discoveries, which you can always find in research, in stories, and in the words themselves. The lyric, it's like, what does this lyric mean to me now? What do I need to say about this? It's going to be different than last night. It's going to be different than 3 years ago. So I look at words, and I start with the words, and then I think, well, I did a tribute to Sarah Vaughan, one of the greatest jazz singers in the world. How audacious is that? But I'm passionate about this woman, and I don't think she's easy to understand. I found out before I put my show together that I was at her last engagement, and that she had just found out she had terminal lung cancer. And I remember how she sang Send in the Clowns, and I thought, wow, that was some, gravitas like I've never seen before. And I thought, well, that's why she sang it that way. So when I was like, well, how do I sing Send in the Clowns? I kept racking my brain, trying all these things. Finally, I said, well, let's just put it to minor. And it turned out to be Beethoven's Moonlight Sonata, Send in the Clowns. And it is, to me, one of my favorite things I've ever done. Because I told a story about a woman I'm passionate about, and I got to reveal something of myself. And so that's where the lyric and the stories, they all come together to make these incredible creative discoveries. And you get a whole night of them, and it's exciting for your band, it's exciting for you, you're never bored. And the audience feels the passion and the love and the turmoil of being human, and we all get to be together in that moment. So that's what I'm about, and that's what I'm trying to do.
Well, very good. And yes, I'm so sorry I didn't mention.
No, that's okay.
Songwriting, Anne is just a Renaissance woman. So many.
It's exhausting.
I know it must be. Allan, one of the questions that I have for you, as I said, I've known you and Pat for so many years, and you have as diverse a career as any of the artists up here, as far as all the different kinds of shows you're doing. And I believe the only way we can be successful these days is to diversify, to come up with different kinds of shows and projects. That's the only way we're really going to work, I believe.
Can I just add something? I have a very interesting and creative manager, and basically the word out is that high concept sells.
The what?
People want to know,
Concept, yeah.
what is your concept? It's not just a night with Hampton Callaway or Allan Harris, or they want to know, what's this about? It could be the most bizarre little thing it's about, but if they really are clear about what it's about, then they can sell what it's about and you and other people you're doing. So that the high concept thing is definitely a help commercially.
Can I say one thing about
Yes,
that?
you can.
There's a reason why high concept works. Does anybody care to venture why it
I'm
works?
sorry to interrupt your question.
Don't try to talk, Allan. You're just a guy.
I'm sorry.
I have a vicious dog. Watch it.
No, of course I'd like to know. Absolutely, please.
No, I just want to say that it's because in order for things to work, you need to get things written.
Yeah.
And journalists live in the world of concepts, and they need something to grab onto.
Right.
So, and actually everything has a concept. You just have to present it with the concept. So go ahead, speaking of Allan.
No, but that's very valuable because, you know, everyone's looking for, you know, what's the best thing to do now, and why did somebody's project work? Why didn't mine work? What do I do now? But Allan, you and Pat really have created such a, you know, a great career. And I would love to have Pat on a panel to hear everything she has to say about what she has parlayed. Your life wouldn't be the same, certainly, without what Pat
Definitely.
does.
Having fun, drunk, and chasing.
Yes, and she's a beautiful person too, and we all love her. I'm impressed that you are capable of working in all these different musical idioms, and I would assume this enables you to work in a variety of venues and build a wider audience, which you've been working on. What I want to know is, so many years ago when we were all stewing around together, was this a conscious, strategic plan by you and Pat together? Did you sit down and say, all right, I'm going to make a 5-year plan now. I can see I need to have a focus. Let's make a plan. I'm going to release this record, and then that's going to, I know in 6 months I'm going to have this other record ready to go, and then we're going to approach orchestras. I'm going to get my orchestra book. I'm going to get my big band book. I'm going to get my blues show. Was this a plan, strategic? Did you two sit down?
She did. She really has a wonderful foot. For those of you who know my wife, you understand she's a daunting person. You see her in the daylight. I live with her 24 hours a day, and trust me, you think 12 years a slave is bad. Just kidding. Just kidding. Just kidding. Come on, just kidding. Just kidding. No.
What did you say? Say that again.
Hell no. Look, you know, there's three.
So you like your woman strong?
I do. My mother was strong. There's three things that influenced my life. 3 things. The first one was, we buried my grandmother in North Carolina, Hampton, North Carolina. I was a little child. I remember seeing my father. My father was one of the leading wide receivers for the Black Football League. He was going to join the Titans, which was going to become the Jets. He's an amazing athlete. And then we see my father, he was a knockout. I remember going with him and my mother and the family in a railroad car to bury my grandmother. And he got out the car and he wouldn't let me come out. And he went to the bathroom, there was a colored sign. He didn't want me to see that. I saw it. And that broke my heart. It broke his heart too. We never talked about it to this day. That was the first one. The second one was as a little child in Brooklyn, a young man in Brooklyn. I was about 12 years old, and I've been walking home past Mr. Cook's barbershop when I had hair. They used to play checkers and that in the background, typical, which is prelude to my new CD, Black Bars Jukebox. And I remember walking past as a young kid, and I grew up with Sidney Poitier and Stephen Fetchit, and most young kids of color grew up with that boys. And I remember seeing the poster in the window, and it was just daunting. It changed my life. It was tall figure of a black man in a white leather fringe suit playing a white Stratocaster. It was Jimi Hendrix. It knocked my socks off. And Mr. Cook was in there screaming at all the other black guys.
Do you play your guitar with your, with your strings?
No, I don't go that far. and it rocked my mind, that's one thing. And the third one was, I used to spend the summers at my grandfather's farm. We were a horse farm. And I remember there was a little bay filly. She was wild. She was a 3-year-old filly, and really not many people wanted to ride her because once she took the bit in her mouth, horses, she would take off, and you basically had to bail off of her. And Pat kept the horse at the farm. She boarded a horse, she and her sister, and she was crazy at the time. I remember stepping out, my grandfather ran up to me and said, "Man, it's this crazy little white girl riding that horse." At
that time, had you started your singing career there? Did she start the strategic plans for your career?
That moved me. That really saw the fortitude that she had. And she took those lessons of that horse and she applied it to what she does today.
That's where this was going. Is there a moment where she really said, I love you, we got a great marriage,
there was.
But hey, let's make a strategic plan, and I want
she
you
knows
to
how
do
to
this.
ride you.
She does.
We're going to have a sex panel next time.
She worked for Jimmy Page for a number of years. Jimmy Page is a guitar
she worked
for Jimmy Page for a number of years.
So she had connections in the business.
No, she never brought to the table. What she brought to the table was how to conduct a career outside of the format of jazz. Because she realized that being a jazz artist at the time, the knowledge that was given to me was very limited. Because the people who were controlling my destiny, managers, agents, and that, really kept a closed door. Yes. I had to sing. Basically, it was a sharecropper mentality. And she brought that attitude to the table. She looked at me one day and said, "You know what? I think I can do better than what these guys were handling you." I said, "Really? You give me a break." She's traveled around the world. She's been on 3 safaris. I mean, she's really a daunting human being. Even if I wasn't in love with her, I would like to get to know her. So she sat down and said, "Look, give me a year with you. And if something happens in a year, blah, 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 blah." I said, "Okay." And together, under her auspices, she brought a lot of that knowledge from working with Jimmy Page, working with a bunch of other people that she did. She had a company at the time. She brought it to the table, which was outside the mainstream of jazz. Because being a person of color, there was a lot of doors that they kept closed to us, to me, which was the residue of the 40s and 50s. Yes, you could play. Yes, you could sing. Yes, you could make pop records. Yes, you could sing like Eddie Jefferson, Nat King Cole. But as far as your business acumen, they kept you out of the picture if you were that. She brought to the table another dimension. She said, "You know what? Let's look at our cousins in country music and rock and R&B and see what they're doing and apply that to what you're doing in jazz." And she did that with verve. And as you see now today, the residue of that is what we're doing now.
Yes. Very good. Very good. Very good. All right. Laurie, I just wanted to ask you, for all of those here, there might be some educators here, and I think most of us are students forever, aren't we? So just forever. And the conservatory, the jazz conservatory where you're putting the programs together, what do you see that's moving forward in jazz singing? What are the classes that you're presenting that are making a difference for singers? Because I know we have a lot of teachers here, because I know a lot of women are here.
Yeah.
So
you're
do you
one of
just
them.
have a couple of do you have a couple of programs that are particularly working well for singers as they're developing into getting out there today?
Wow. Yes and no. I mean, all the things that everybody, when you said, I don't think about what the future of, I think about it all the time. So I'm constantly thinking about it, because I've got developing artists that are spending money in an educational environment, and they expect to learn something and then go out and have a career. So I have to think about what that education is going to do for them and where they're going to take it, And so all the things that have been talked about so far, like the Great American Songbook, it hasn't been updated for a while, so since I'm the chair of this vocal program, I added in this year Stevie Wonder and Joni Mitchell into the. And by the way, just as a little bit of background, I don't even have a degree. I fell into academia as an artist, and was invited by Mark Murphy and Sheila Jordan and Jay Clayton to go to Graz and teach, and then Susan Muscarella. And anyway, I found myself where I am via being an artist.
Thank you for mentioning that also, because as we know in the world of education, if you don't have a master's degree now, you can't get a gig.
Right.
You know, Thelonious Monk would not have been able to get into one of the schools, and yet Fred Hurst will be playing him at the Village Vanguard. You know what I'm saying? So the marrying of education now with how jazz used to be passed on, it's a different thing. And I think as educators, we've been talking about what's happening in that circle, because you don't want to miss out, you know, because the gigs are less these days.
Are you talking about teaching gig or playing?
Yeah, I'm talking about, you know, the artists. Right now, Laurie was talking about just some of her background, that she doesn't have a master's degree.
I don't even have a bachelor's degree.
Or a bachelor's, and I'm just saying I appreciate that she mentioned that. She's booking the classes, but she doesn't have
No, I developed the whole curriculum.
Yeah, you've developed the curriculum.
Yeah, and it's just recently got accredited, which is kind of awesome.
That's right.
Let me tell you what the concept that I came up with, and I also am 56 years old too.
Right on, sister.
What sign are you?
Gemini.
I'm a Pisces. Okay.
Girls.
So I was gifted to be around many masterful musicians as a very young singer, like a 20-year-old singer. When I was 22, I was out on the road with Pony Poindexter, and I was mentored by Mark Murphy and Sheila Jordan as singers, but also Joe Henderson, and I worked with Richie Byrack, and all these. George Cable's played with me for my first record, and those guys spent so much time with me, just in their living room, just because they saw that I was into it, and they gave me so much. I mean, I just, want to cry, it's just like, they passed it on. So I had to come up with something for the school that was going to work, and I think a lot of things don't work in academia because it sort of beats the life out of the soul of the music a lot of times. You get in there with the fluorescent lights and it's just like weird, So I thought, what can I do that is something that's manageable but will also create an environment for developing singers to have the kind of experiences that I had, which are no longer available to them. There's not the jam sessions. Those guys aren't even around anymore, most of them, and George is still around. But I mean, that generation is pretty much gone. And thank God, I had those experiences. So what I do, and this is the heart and soul of the vocal program, and then I'll tell you the second layer of it, is I find the absolute best instrumentalists that I can in the Bay Area, and they come into the classroom. They're professional jazz musicians, the best that the Bay Area has, and that's the rhythm section, and then the singers come in, and they get to experience what it feels like to sing a ballad with someone who can really play that. You know what I'm saying?
Wonderful.
So there's that. And that's an ongoing thing, and I could talk about this. I'll write a book about it or something someday. I don't know, but then the next layer of it is that Roseanna's been at the school. Rene and I have been. She almost came to the school, but I'm going to make sure that she comes. But I bring as many artists as possible. Everybody's been there. Kurt, Allan, Bobby McFerrin. Everybody's come. Everybody's come to teach, and so the singers can also, it's a little bit, it's not the same environment like it was when we were coming up, where you went to the club and met and hung out and got to, be with the people, but at least, you bring Nancy King in. Nancy's not an educator. And I just tell my students, come in and just be in her presence. Just feel what it's like to be around Nancy King. Mm-hmm. She's just like, she doesn't read music. But you're gonna learn something by being in the presence of somebody who's a deep artist. So that's what I hope for, in our educational program, and it works.
You're certainly doing a great job. You're doing a great job, and when I heard Nancy King at a workshop, at the end of the workshop, we all said, by the way, how did you get to where you are as an improviser? And she said, it's because I learned a lot of solos and I play the drums. Mm-hmm. So I thought that was a pretty good answer. Yeah. I'm going to move on right now because our time is short, and I want to be sure that everybody that would like to ask a question. I knew this wouldn't be long enough because we have such great information, such wisdom up here. Thank you, Laurie. Thank you. I would like to conclude my questions with Jana Herzen. And, of course, the big question that everybody would like answered is, Jana, what are you looking for in new artists? When you are going to sign someone, I'm sure everybody in here would, it's like the most important information. I think there's such confusion about what to do sometimes. So, really...
My stock answer is I'm not looking.
I don't look,
actually. But I don't mean that in a bad way, actually, because I'm not like looking. I'm really not, because I find that it's kind of like the bee and the flower, it's like we're here, and people who resonate with what the label is doing come and say hello, and every once in a while I go out to a club and I go, oh my God, that's amazing, it works for me. So, but what do I like? I think is, first off, I'm just a person. I'm not I run a record label, yes, and I'm riddled with fear. I totally relate to grab the fear. It's time to go out. It's difficult business to be in, and I'm a musician who started a label, and it sometimes runs me more than I run it sometimes. But I follow my instinct just like I do when I sing, really. If I'm relating to somebody, but what is it that I love? I love honesty. And I love passion. I love true passion, where people who are working, who get the idea of what I'm able to sign. Like, I don't work in a vacuum, actually. We have a team, and I need to sign things that I feel that the team, A, has the skill to be able to do something about, B, is going to have some passion behind, because I need them to have passion as well. So I might really, and this has happened this last couple of years, the company's been growing, I might really love something, but I'm not getting a consensus, and I go, I don't think I better sign this, because I'm not going to personally get in the trenches and do all that work, so I better not sign this one, even though I love it, and so there's what, I have hugely inclusive musical tastes. I just love anything I love world music. I love punk music, even if I'm going to go out, not to listen to, but I like to go out to it, So I just like when people are real, and I think that the ego is the enemy of great music, and we all have one, and we all are, I think it's very important to become aware of what our true, anybody who has a desire to do something, I think is meant to do it. So should you quit your day job, should you not? That's not the question. The question is, are you burning to sing something? Well, find a place to sing it. One of my favorite quotes, I'm always repeating this to people, was Jack Nicholson, because I used to be in the theater before I was in music, and that's another thing I look for is theatrical, whether it's instrumental or whether it's, I like things that have dynamic and are courageous and epic, things like that. But Jack Nicholson one time was asked about auditioning, and he said, any chance to act. Any chance, that's it. He said, just give me a stage, I like to do this, And when people have that much desire, and they're not, because that's what you need to get over. When I first I'm a person who had a lot of stage fright. I now say that I don't have stage fright anymore because I have record label fright, which is much bigger, much bigger. Because you're dealing with people's lives and you're dealing with, I try to make the best decision, but I can't always know what's going to work, and I can't promise anything's going to work, and I'm risking my own money too sometimes, and so it's the whole thing. But I just, I have to go by, well, what am I really burning to do? And it's the same. When I sign something, it's like, well, this I can go to bat for this. So I don't know if that answers, I don't know if it really answers the question, but I hope for yourselves that you're picking the material. I did want to know, how many writers are there in the room? And don't feel bad if you're not one. Wow, there's quite a number of writers in here. Because if you ask me where the future of jazz is going, I think is that the singer-songwriter men. I think that people are bringing themselves to the song. But I also don't feel bad because interpretation is an amazing art form, and you're just writing with your spirit inside of there. I was thinking like a song is like a coat. It's like there's nothing until you put it on, but it's whoever's inside of it, how it hangs on them, and how you carry it. How you carry it, that it gets over. And the reason I was asking that, I do also, I'm interested in people who have a voice and who are going to help inspire people. I feel like that is what is the most needed in the world right now. It's love, as Madame said earlier, and inspiration. To be able to go somewhere and feel inspired to be your best person when you leave. That's what I like to sign the people who are doing that. It takes courage. They're taking risks, and they're not worrying about whether I'm liking them.
All right. Okay. I'd like to thank our illustrious panel, and we have about 13 minutes for questions. So, who has a question? Does anybody? Yes? Who would you like to address it to?
I'd like to ask Ann if she'd like to write a hit record.
Would I like to write a hit record? I would love a record that I write to be highly received. Absolutely, yes. And I remember when I made my first record at Hampton Callaway, and I did How Deep is the Ocean with Mike Renzi, just the two of us. I thought, my dream is someday on Top 40 radio for someone to play something this beautiful and this personal. And I really believe in the ring of truth. But I think you need the machinery of people who have a vision. And if you can galvanize them and make them believe that America deserves something better than some of the crap we hear on the radio. And yes, but I'd be interested to know what that would be. I don't know what that is.
But
I don't know.
Writing songs.
I'm writing lots of songs, and I have had some interesting things percolating. But I'd like to know that, my song that I wrote for Barbra Streisand at the same time, that record sold 11 million records. So there's something. The Nanny, I wrote The Nanny Named Fran, a very jazzy TV theme. That's the last jazzy TV theme song, as far as I know. And yes, that was my finest work to date, says my accountant. But no, I really, when I think about Ella Fitzgerald and Sarah Vaughan, two of my heroes, they were able to reach many people because they had people and they had imaginations that could see, where do I connect with the world? And I don't think you have to pander yourself, but you have to have a lot of imagination and really be gutsy about who you are, and just don't be afraid of being successful. Being commercial does not mean you are not artistic. It doesn't have to mean that.
Because nobody's talked about that.
Yes.
Everybody's talked about coming from the heart. But in fact, all the songs that were written in the Great American Songbook were written for money.
Yeah.
They were written to be hit records.
And I think we as jazz artists really need to revise our opinion of, if it's that to do something artistic won't be commercial. I totally disagree. I've spent my whole life trying to be true to myself, and I've been fortunate to have some money here and there. Now I don't know. I don't understand this record business at all, and I have no idea. I just put out a record I believe in. I don't even know what I sold. Probably something pathetic. But I do believe, I feel very optimistic about this new year. I don't know why. And I think that part of it is building bridges. Like, I love that Betty Buckley, who's a theater actress, she got together with T-Bone and made this really cool record fusing two different worlds. And it sounds a whole... Awesome. He is a brilliant man, and the two of them came together in a fresh way. I think that this is the future of jazz, is how can we build bridges in the world and get cozy with people who may be very different. Like, I want to do a record with Yo-Yo Ma. You know, I think that it would be really gorgeous, and I'd love to do something with Sting, and I have all these people that I think, I want to get creative with these people. And I think that that's part of what we do is inspired by friendship. You know, Sarah Vaughan was lucky to have her best friends as a teenager be the pioneers of bebop. But we have each other, and who knows what's possible in this room, the creative spirit of if we got together and got creative, and, you know, there's no stopping the creativity of the people just in this room. So I think that that's a very valid question, and I would love to make a hit record, and I plan on doing it.
Any other questions? Any other questions? Yes?
Yeah. Well, just more an observation. I'm a bassist and work with a lot of vocalists, and some very well-known ones. But what I see now with younger vocalists makes my job and life much easier. A lot of vocalists are coming in trained where they can tell me what key to sing a song in, so I don't have to spend the first 5 minutes trying to figure that out. And then also coming in with well-written charts and changes. That's been very helpful. Not to respect the older ones, because when I work with some of the others, they had a musical director do it for them. Some of the well-established ones, but it's just such a relief for me.
Yes, better musicianship is something we've been talking about for years, and all of us have been dealing with that. And it is. I'm glad that your job is easier now. Yes, Miss London.
Well, I have. My name is Amy London, and I'm a Tama artist, and I've been on the scene for starting my 30th year. I've also been dating. I've also been faculty at New School. I helped create the vocal department there. Speaking of charts and keys, that's the first thing we teach.
Are you asking a question?
I'm putting out a question in reference to what Rene was talking about, and everybody. It's an observation. It's an experience that I'm having with my young students, and I just want to see what people have to say about this. And also, in conjunction with what you said, I have a lot of, I keep getting a year older, and they keep staying 18 years old, okay? I walk in every fall, they're still 18, the new batch is 18, I'm a year older. And we have a lot of kids now that are kind of like songbook haters, okay? And they want to be...
American songbook haters.
Yeah, they want to be the next two-chord jam star.
Beatbox.
Yeah, whatever.
Right.
And it's a challenge to get them to fall in love with the songbook, because the songbook, as we all know, is gorgeous, comes from all this great stuff, and of course, it needs to move forward. Like you were saying, Rene, we can't just do the songbook, we need to write. We need to do new music. So what I tell them on the first day is, like, I happen to know a lot about the songbook, that's my area of expertise. However, don't get me wrong, I want you guys to write. Please write new songs, but learn this stuff. Learn what Billy Strayhorn composed. Learn what Cole Porter, what lyrics, what a poet he was. Learn this stuff so that your writing can grow and increase and get better. So this is kind of a situation if anybody wants to comment on this, any helpful tips, because I'm trying to show them the great beauty that came before, but encourage them to write new stuff based on education and learning and new challenges, as opposed to just
I'd like to comment on that. Yeah. I'll be brief, but because of the way our culture is right now with the young students, and the teachers are all having conversations about the 18-year-olds right now, because the attention span is so short. And one thing I did the other day was I had a student who I knew was talented, but I couldn't get her to focus, and I actually brought her to my house, and I sat her on my couch, and I played the Nancy Wilson Cannonball Adderley record all the way through. Oh. And she said that she had never in her entire life listened to an entire record, a CD, all the way through.
That's a very
Oh my God.
Okay.
Albums are coming back, though. My niece that just started going to college in New Orleans has a turntable.
But her hero is Amy Winehouse, but then after she heard Nancy Wilson. So it's just turning people on, I think, but it takes a little extra, you got to be clever about it now, because to get people's attention.
And to that effect, I bring back the listening party.
Thank you.
Bring some wine, hang out, everybody listen to some great records. I know, seriously. But no, or whatever. No, but just just like have a musical show and tell. You bring them some great stuff. Have them bring you, because you need to know what they like too.
Actually, YouTube has been a revelation.
Yes.
Another thing that you can
Alan, you have a
yes, Alan.
You had your hand up.
I know, but I'm scared.
We have about 4 minutes for any other questions, but what were you going to offer?
When I was growing up, and I'm sure a number of you are in the same age bracket that I am, there was no video, there was no texting or whatever. If you had to do something in your house, you were told to go to your room and read a book. Remember those days? Yeah. In turn, it was called. There was a whole lineage of people that we read and we grew up on. They were called men of letters at the time. And imagination was rife, and you gleaned from books that you read from the classics and whatever. And the children now, the imagination is so rapid that they really don't have time to ferment with anything. They don't have time to ferment. They don't have time to dream. They don't have time to look at that poster of your favorite star that you look at on, or listen to that record and play it back and forth. For those who were instrumentalists, you learned, you'd have YouTube, whatever. If you wanted to learn a riff, you just had to put the record back and put the record back again. And in turn, that helped you develop a muscle inside of you that I feel is strongly lacking in the children of today. Now, on that note, getting back to tying it in with the American Songbook, from the Cole Porters and the Van Usens and the song, those men and women who wrote those songs, they came from a background that we did, where they had to read and imagine things beyond the hill and the mountain and the village that they lived in. There was no such thing as internet or Google. They couldn't superimpose what something looked like. They had to imagine it through books. In turn, they extrapolated from books and from those songs, those images. They knew how to walk along the beach. You know, you look at Stardust, you knew how to kiss the girl on the cheek, you know, to hold hands, Moonlight Becomes You, and that. It wasn't just a girl in a thong shaking on MTV. Is there MTV anymore?
No, well,
whatever, made myself. So, in turn, yes, these children are not adept, and they do not have the lineage or the vivacious we have with the American song, but it is our duty to force them.
Can I just add one sentence?
All right.
Sing with them.
Right.
Let us sing with them.
Everybody, we're going to have to wind it up here.
Renee had something too.
We're going to have to wind it up. Renee, I'm going to give you 1 minute, and then you're going to have to catch this illustrious group out in the hallway and ask them your questions. I knew that we would run out of time. I'm trying to police it as best I can.
You did very well, Roseanna.
What do you have to say?
Take the lyrics from these Great American Songbook, deconstruct it, put the lyrics on the board, if you still use that, and ask them to compose a melody for that. To completely redo it and talk about what the lyrics mean. Where's the punch? The emotional punch of the song, the emotional punch in each line. That helps a singer look at it and approach it from the way the original composer and lyricist meant it to be.
And it could be a vocalese.
Could be.
It could be a vocalese. All right, thank you for coming.